Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in game number 1, and look at this. All of the players are so kind. They're all wishing Olivia happy birthday, as we have all the cakes around being mined. But here we are in the bottom left-hand corner of the map on top of the first player of the day we're going to introduce. Representing Storm Gaming, give it up for PiLiPiLi. And his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, the yellow Zerg player from Root Gaming, recently joined them. Give it up for PandaBearMe. But man, this qualifier is definitely going to mean a lot for both of these players. They would love to be able to qualify for this. PandaBearMe hasn't really had a lot of opportunities to go to big live events besides like DreamHack Austin. And he really wants an opportunity, I'm sure, to be able to kind of show what he's worth, show how far he's come, and how good he is in Legacy of the Void. And PiLiPiLi himself, of course, qualified for IEM Shanghai, but isn't going to be able to go because he is, in fact, a Kazakhstanian citizen, not an American citizen, despite living in the United States now. He moved here about a couple of years ago. And then China, or I should say, you know, in Shanghai, like he wasn't able to get the passport to go for it, just because he is a Kazakhstanian citizen, and they're fairly weird about that, it seems like. So it's really unfortunate. He qualified for IEM Shanghai, isn't able to go. This is potentially going to be one of the last events this year that he could potentially qualify for, a live event, as there aren't that many left over anymore. I'm not sure if DreamHack Bucharest has StarCraft. It's so hard to figure that stuff out, but this, again, is going to be a really, really important opportunity for PiLiPiLi to try and capitalize on. Same thing for PandaBearMe. Again, both these players do have a potential to qualify since there is a loser's bracket, but there's a really, really rough road ahead of them, as I think they're going to end up playing either versus Kelazor or True in the loser's bracket. But alright, talking a little bit about the two players and the openings that they've been going for. Looks like PandaBearMe did go for a hatch gas pool. Has two guys still mining gas, so wants to go up to a fairly quick lair tech. Has a couple of Zergans roaming around the map. Nothing too significant or severe. Is going to be going for a quick third expansion. In the meanwhile, PiLiPiLi getting up that Stargate, looking to open up with maybe a opening Oracle. Of course, a lot of pros players still like to open up with a Phoenix these days, just because you can pick up, kill off Overlords, you can disincentivize any Zerg players who like going for those Mutalisk transitions, which I will say PandaBearMe and his Mutalisk control is pretty on point. Especially since a lot of Zerg players have definitely figured out how to go for Mutalisks ever since Dark came out and started learning how to do that Ling Bling style that can transition into the Mutalisk. Oracle is going to be made first, though. Is going to have an opportunity to get some damage done. Now, of course, in the cross spawn positions, this does mean that there's going to be a bit of extra time for PandaBearMe to try and get up any Spore Callers he needs. Obviously building one Spore Caller right now, but it's going to be canceled just because he's trying to save it from the Adept. But Oracle does pop out, and there's still no Spore Callers being thrown down. There aren't even that many Queens out just yet. Only 3. There's no more Queens being made, so he's not going to have those additional Queens that you might be using for Larva, or sorry, not for Larva, for Creep Spread, and also defending against any sort of aggression. But looks like Spore Callers are going down at the absolute perfect time, at least at the main base and the third expansion. Where is the second Oracle, or Spore Caller going down? Are they both in the main base? That's really weird. Oh, it's over the front. That's really cute positioning. I guess he wants to immediately unburrow this and probably walk it straight over, and this is kind of the closest place to where the creep spread was when he started that up. Well, second Oracle is also out, and you want to keep these Oracles alive, not just for annoying your opponent with the Oracles and doing damage and everything, but you also want to keep it alive for Revelations, because Lurker transitions are pretty common in the matchup, but we do have melee upgrades coming out. PandaBearMe seems to be one of the Zerg players that likes to go for melee upgrades, because he likes to go for this Ling, Roach, Hydra, Lurker style, and he likes to use the Lings for lots of counterattacks, but he has to deal with this counterattack first, as the Adepts are going to be able to do some nice damage over here. Already getting that Queen very, very low on health. The Oracles may just turn around and, yeah, focus fire it down. A couple of drones have already been killed off. We're up to 12 workers killed so far. That's a pretty significant number, as PandaBearMe is already sitting down at 43 workers to the 48 right now of PiLiPiLi. And right now he's still continuing to make more and more Zerglings over anything else. Roach Warren's going to be finishing up pretty soon, and the Adepts are also killing off some more of these Zerglings, definitely hurting the possibility for a counterattack. I think that these Adepts should get cleaned up pretty soon. But I feel like PiLiPiLi has already done the economic damage he really needs to. He just needs to make sure that he can defend his third expansion. He's got a lot of pylons available over here to vote and overcharge. These oracles don't exactly have a lot of energy, but one of them should be able to at least gun down a decent chunk of these Zorglings if they try and get too aggressive. PiLiPiLi also maintaining that wall in over his natural expansion, making sure that he doesn't just die to some kind of Zerglin counterattack. But these Zerglings do have +1 melee upgrades, so you do have to be a bit more careful. They can gun down things, and oh, we're starting to see him try and go off on that sentry. Sentry just barely manages to survive. Really nice control and patience over there from PiLiPiLi. The Galileo reconstitution going up behind this. PandaBearMe also getting up to +2 melee attacks. And this is what I also want to talk about, the fact that PandaBearMe, again, loves to go for those melee upgrades, despite the fact that he is going to go into that composition that is really heavy on ranged attacking units. He's going to be going for roaches, he's going to be going for hydralisks, he's going to be going for lurkers. And none of them really benefit directly from the +1 or +2 melee attacks, but those Zerglings, the idea is that you're just constantly counterattacking with the Zerglings. And on such a big map with cross-spawn positions, this could only work out a little bit better. Now PiLiPiLi, let's see what he has been going up to. He has gotten up to Twilight Council, getting out those upgrades for himself with the +1 weapons, but also is going to be getting up Blink and a Warp Prism. So we may just be seeing a really significantly large gateway army coming out from PiLiPiLi. And this can work out, but you do have to hit a very specific timing before any massive number of lurkers actually pop out. You need to be hitting with your gateway army, because once those lurkers pop out, you really do need disruptors. You need to have an overwhelming number of gateway units, or you just need to have a ridiculously superior economy. Oracle's able to keep an eye on everything, though. They see where the Hydralisk Den is, when the Hydralisk Den is finishing up, and he's going to be able to get a nice little warp in over here. Overlord spots us out, so PandaBearMe should be able to reposition his army. That's a pretty big deal. Going to be morphing in some of these Ravager eggs, because he knows I'm not going to have time to get out a ton of my lurkers right now. But oh man, the Ravager eggs are getting focus fire down by the Oracles. One Queen should be able to pick off one of the Oracles. The other Oracle's going to have to retreat on out, but PiLiPiLi still has a pretty scary looking army over here with Blink and a lot of sentry energy for those force shields. This is a very old school angle to be coming in on, as there's just a lot of room to get those force shields down, especially if you get right around here, you force shield out your opponent using their hatchery as a giant force shield in their own right. And oh no, PandaBearMe lets PiLiPiLi get into that beautiful spot. There are the 3 force shields. He's going to be able to immediately kill off this third. There's no way that PandaBearMe is really going to have an opportunity to save this if PiLiPiLi doesn't mess this up. Couple more corrosive biles coming down, and oh, that hatchery is so low on health. PiLiPiLi having to back up a bit, though. Does blink forward, trying to take out the hatchery. He does take it out. He wants to wait until the last second because he needs to be able to retreat on out. The drones are being pulled as well, and they're doing a lot of damage to the sentries that are on the front line. All the sentries end up falling, but I think that PiLiPiLi has taken good enough trades that he's going to be pretty okay not dying to an immediate counterattack, at least for now. Just because he kept alive enough stalkers and he took out a decent chunk of the Zerglings and the roaches. Handful of the Ravagers are still alive, but he may just be looking to try and catch PiLiPiLi's stalkers on the retreat with these Zerglings. Try and get him on a full surround, or maybe get some kind of counterattack damage done. PandaBearMe sending the Zerglings around, maybe hoping that there was a 4th expansion or something along those lines, but nothing of the sort is there. There is a 4th expansion that was already finished up for PandaBearMe, so he's not in the worst situation, but he's going to have these gas guys. There's definitely much further delay. The Oracle is going to be able to come in over here. The Spore Crawler is there, so it should be able to deal with them, but Oracles will still guarantee get a couple of drone kills. Loses that, though. 4th expansion not canceled over there, despite +2 melee attacks gunning down that Nexus, and the pylons a bit quicker. Not enough DPS from that, but PandaBearMe does have his Hydralisk Den finished up. Is not going up to the Lurker Den. He is going to Infestation Pit, and he's going and just potentially looking to upgrade to Hive Tech and get out a fast Spire with a Greater Spire coming on the way for Broodlords. That's what I would imagine is coming, but I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. May even just be for an infestation, or for infestors themselves. There's going to be a Templar Archives coming out. Oh, Stalker's catching a lot of these Ravagers out in the middle of the map. Revelation was thrown down on them, so PiLiPiLi has no trouble keeping an eye on them. But 4th expansion does get canceled by these Zergling counterattacks. So This is what I was talking about. That +2 melee attacks definitely helps out quite a bit with the counterattacks. The Stalkers are all busy over here in the center of the map, so the Zerglings swing in from behind, try and take out the Nexus before the Adepts have a chance to gun them down. Hive Tech is going to be coming out as well as that Lurker Den. So PandaBearMe is looking for that transitionary tech, and he's going to continue to use these Zerglings to the best of his abilities to buy time. That's the name of the game for him. Oh, this one Phoenix is so cute. I really love this Phoenix. It's just a unit that's going to be able to continuously keep an eye on this army. The Ravagers will basically have to attack themselves if they want to be able to gun it down with a Corrosive Bile. But Stalkers blink forward very, very aggressively. A couple of the Immortals sitting in the back, not quite able to get involved in the fight, but they don't really do extra damage to the Ravagers since they aren't armored units. But PandaBearMe is already losing so many of the Ravagers. He's on, again, a Roach Ravager composition. Not even Roach Ravager anymore, since he only has 10 Ravagers left over. He's just trying to make Zerglings at this point. But this is not a composition that is going to be super supply efficient, and he's already sitting down almost 30-40 supply. A couple Stalkers are going to get picked off over here. The remainder of them do manage to blink out, but PiLiPiLi has such a ridiculous lead in terms of his army. And it's not just the fact that he has a lead in army supply, it's the fact that his army is straight up better supply. Lurker Den is finished up, but there's no Hydralisk out on the map, and not a single Hydralisk has been made this game as far as I'm aware. And there still aren't any Hydrals coming out. We do have Adrenal Glands coming out, which will definitely benefit those Zerglings that already have +2 melee attacks, but we'll see if he can make the defense happen over here. PiLiPiLi had a Templar Archives finished up a little while ago. I don't see any High Templar there. Here's a couple of those High Templar. Got an Archon already made. No Psy Storm been researched so far, so he's not really going to be able to storm the Zerglings or anything along those lines, but may still have an opportunity. He does probably want to move in before the Lurkers finish up, though. This is an okay army for dealing with Lurkers, as a couple of Zerglings are going to be dealt with just by a few Charge Zealots as well as those Photon Cannons, but Adepts do shade their way over, trying to get some damage done. Not really going to be able to make anything happen over here. But again, PiLiPiLi has a good army to deal with a small number of Lurkers, but once that Lurker count builds up to a fairly high number, it does become exponentially more difficult to break into a nice Lurker defense. Alright, well, here come the Lurkers. We got 7 on the way. PiLiPiLi is pushing out across the map, but those 7 Lurkers should be finishing up just barely in the nick of time for this push-in. They may not be sieged up in the absolute best spot, but they are going to be sieged up nonetheless. It's going to be in a very, very wide open area. I do feel like normally you'd think a wide open area is going to favor the Zerg player, but I think in this situation with the Lurkers out, it's definitely going to favor PiLiPiLi a little bit more. Stalker is able to get on top of the Lurkers, but where is the Observer? He does have Revelation thrown down on 3 of the Lurkers, but he has to back up as he's taking a lot of damage over here. So many of the Immortals already losing their hardened shields and are not going to be able to continue to fight directly against the Lurkers. Corrosive Bile's also pushing PiLiPiLi back. He had a much scarier army at the start, but those Lurkers, they seriously do a lot of damage, and they are able to push PiLiPiLi back. PiLiPiLi also doesn't have a Warp Prism in his army, so he can't do those fast warp-in reinforcements. A couple of Zerglings are going to get picked off by the Zealots just because Charge acts like the best +1 weapons that you could ever ask for. It does that extra damage on the charge, and it doesn't matter how many armor upgrades your opponent has, you will still two-shot the Zerglings. Lots more Archons being made right now to try and join back in with the army, and you have to remember he lost a lot of Archons in that fight. PiLiPiLi needs some transitionary tech, I think. I mean, he does have the Archons, that's all well and good, but either Disruptors, Psystorm can be okay, at least at killing off a lot of the Zerglings very quickly, and once the Zerglings are killed off, well, then it's just a matter of getting on top of the Lurkers since there's not a lot of extra defenses. You take a look at this army, it's not exactly like there's a huge Roach army backing up or that there's a lot of Hydrals. It's pretty much just Ravager, Zergling, Lurker, and the Ravagers can do okay, but Ravagers are not really made to tank. They're made to do extra DPS and use those Corrosive Biles, but here we go. He does have a really, really nice Revelation thrown out on all the Lurkers. It is a massacre. PiLiPiLi able to take the game with one solid engagement, or I should say a follow-up engagement. Alright, and of course it's the first game of the day, so my XSplit is going to take forever to transition over. There we go. Well done, PiLiPiLi. on the 1-0 lead that he now has in the matchup. We're going to be getting ready to hop into game number 2 as soon as the players are ready for that. I'm going to ask them if they can make it on the WCS mod. That would definitely be preferred. Can I make on WCS mod? I'll do. Alright, so we're going to ask them for the map. Once we get the map, then we can hop into it. I'm really curious if Xenocider end up finding Huck. Okay, looks like the map is going to be New Gettysburg. Let's go ahead and get that made. And then King Sejong Station, and then Frozen Temple, and then Galactic Protocol. Oh yeah, it's a best of 5. Oh geez, this is going to be a really long day. Okay, New Gettysburg. So in that last game, it looked a bit scary just because PiLiPiLi had this really heavy supply lead and everything, and the lurkers were able to pop out. PandaBearMe looked like he was going to be able to defend, but PiLiPiLi did have a pretty good economy going, and he also still had a decently sized army. He was able to replenish all the lost Archons and everything else, and able to come back from that. But I would still say he never became behind in that game. He just got into a position where he wasn't as far ahead as he was before. Okay, it looks like the players are hopping to a short little break, so I guess we will just do the same. So before we get ready to hop into game number 2, we're going to be hopping to a short break. We'll see you guys in just a little bit. Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are still waiting for game number 2 to get started. PandaBearMe and PiLiPiLi both sitting on a bit of a break, but looks like PandaBearMe finally joined the lobby, so we should be getting back to it. But big shout out to LoveToolSC2. Thank you so much for the 9-month resub. You have a little, I guess, BaseTradeTV baby in you. 9 months. You can finally give birth to your BaseTradeTV baby. In 3 more months, you'll be able to give birth to your Partooth coin, which should be mailed to you if you ever request it. Okay. PiLiPiLi is ready. Panda, Bear God. So as soon as PandaBearMe is ready, we'll get started. New Gettysburg, definitely one of the interesting maps. And I was talking to Puck about this in his stream last night. It's one of those maps that there are those island bases, and you think, when do people take the island bases that even have the air blockers and everything? And I think Puck was saying, PvZ, it would make a lot of sense to potentially grab. But I'm really interested on the day that we'll end up seeing a Protoss player use their Warp Prism, take it. Puck was saying, you know, you do that and you just put 2 Archons or something like that, or maybe just a handful of units over at that base, and it's pretty much defended. There's nothing that a Zerg player is really going to be able to do for an extended period of time. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. New Gettysburg is going to be the map for game number 2 in this best of 5. I forgot that it was a best of 5. But we'll see you guys there. Well, actually, no. There's no crazy thing to actually play beforehand, so we're just hopping straight into it. Alright, and PiLiPiLi currently up 1-0. And speaking of which, we do have that player in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. I already said his name, but representing Psystorm Gaming, the red Protoss, PiLiPiLi. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the yellow Zerg player. Give it up for Root Gaming's PandaBearMe. And D-Megalord asking if we're going to be streaming Eric. Pretty much going to be streaming games as we get out of each one of these series. I'm going to be looking and seeing what's available, who is out of game, because my objective is that I want to, one, broaden and expand the coverage. I don't want to just be following one player all the way to the winners finals and never really give coverage to anyone else, because part of the reason is that you guys want to watch this is that we want to watch all the different players. You want to see who could potentially be competing at Shanghai. But oh, we got a 2-gate opening over here on the low ground. Oh boy, this is going to be really aggressive from PiLiPiLi. This is really curious. This is a map that has this bridge, this very short bridge that you can potentially send units out across pretty quickly. But I'm going for the Cybernetics Core. Now, I saw State do something similar to this, and I heard later on that State was doing this type of build where he's really heavily delaying his natural expansion just because on the Korean server, there's a lot of Zerg players going for those early pool openings. And especially on a map like this, you want to be able to get that full wall in. A lot of Protoss players still want to go for those low ground gateway expansions and everything. And this is one of the safer ways to get that full wall in a little bit earlier, if your opponent's going for a big speedling all in. But we don't see PandaBearMe going for anything of the sort. He's getting out a couple of Zerglings now, but it's after the hatcheries finish up, after his gas guys just started mining some gas, and has started up that Zergling speed. PiLiPiLi should be more than okay. The question is, how much damage will his 2 early adepts do? And this might catch PandaBearMe just a tad bit off guard, just the fact that there are 2 of these adepts, but PandaBearMe is a very, very good player. I'm sure that he's seen a playstyle like this, if this has become a bit more popular in the matchup. Adepts making their way across the map, and they should be able to get there just in time for when the queens pop out. Yeah, queens should be able to definitely add in a bit of DPS and tank ability if those adepts are not focus firing down the drones, but there's only 4 Zerglings out right now, and that's really not enough to deal with the adepts. Queens will do okay again and just adding a bit of extra DPS, but these adepts are pretty much guaranteed to get a couple of drone kills. Interesting that he decided to cancel the adept shade over there. I guess he didn't want to potentially get surrounded over in the main base, but he wants to be able to get out of there. He will be able to escape out of there, but Zergling's speed is about to finish up, so he's going to have to be a bit careful. Making a stalker afterwards to take care of the overlord. Just good decision making from PiLiPiLi. I really dislike even the players that want to go for the big adept 7-gate all-ins and everything, the ones that just continue to produce more and more adepts. I really wish that they would just get 1 stalker to take care of the overlord, because it just gives yourself a bit more opportunity to make sure that your opponent doesn't constantly have vision over whether or not you've cut workers, whether or not you're chrono boosting out resonating glaives. If you have a 3rd, if you're transitioning out, you just have that potential to take out those overlords. It looks like Warp Gate Technology is about to finish up, Twilight Council is about to finish up, and there is Resonating Glaives. Still no 3rd expansion for PiLiPiLi being taken just yet. No sending out of the probe or anything like that. We'll have to wait and see. It's still possible that he just wants to take a 3rd, but and put on light bits of aggression, especially since he's only sitting on 2 gateways right now. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a big 7-gate all-in. But for now, he's going to try and get some damage done with some more of these adepts. He already did a bit of damage. Keeping those adepts alive was good, but killing off 2 workers, definitely not too bad. PandaBearMe going to be able to pick off the 3rd expansion probe, and that is a really, really nice save over there for PandaBearMe. Because PiLiPiLi really does want to get that 3rd expansion down on time, and he's busy trying to warp in all of his units to try and be more aggressive rather than trying to be on the defensive. Adepts are just sitting over here at this choke point, make sure that they won't get surrounded, because he knows that PandaBearMe has these Zerglings. I think that he's shaded in just to try and force out more Zerglings from PandaBearMe, which is not quite working out. But oh man, did another probe end up dying? No. Looks like the Resonating Glaives Adept just cleaned up those Zerglings, but here we go. Adepts shade on in, and they are going after these Zerglings right now, but finally we have some focus fire coming down on the drones, able to kill off 4 workers, might be able to get a 5th. No, not quite. Not a lot of damage done so far. Resonating Glaives is finally going to be finishing up, but PiLiPiLi is still only sitting on those 3 warp gates, so I don't really think that he's looking to try and end the game on this. Some of these Zerglings now making their way across the map to try and get a scout out on that 3rd expansion, since he saw that he was able to kill off the probe a couple of times, but just wants to get some confirmation, I'm sure. Photon Overcharge force out. Wow, that was... Maybe, I don't know if that was an overreaction. I guess he doesn't really need the Photon Overcharge for a little bit, but definitely a Photon Overcharge for not a whole lot over there. Regardless, PiLiPiLi going to be able to use these adepts and pick off some more of these drones that are still mining gas. PandaBearMe losing some more mining time, so it's just light bits of aggression constantly. It's never that overwhelming number of 20 adepts shading around into every single base. It's just that continuous 3 to 4 adepts always pushing in, always making sure that PandaBearMe has those Zerglings out and he's remaking them, that he's prepared. And 10 workers killed so far this time, and that's definitely a lot better than any of the previous adept push-ins that he's been doing. But still, we have a Lurker Den coming out, and the nice thing is the Adepts did get a scout out on the Lurker Den. No, he saw the Hydrals Den, he didn't see the Lurker Den. Very, very interesting. So you might not know the exact timing of it, but knowing that the Hydro stand is already finished, he's got to know that he has to be prepared for a lurker transition. So many Zerg players these days love going for those super fast lurker transitions. And PiLiPiLi doesn't exactly have a whole lot of units out right now. Yeah, he had those Resonating Glaive Adepts made, and yes, he's getting out double Immortals out of the double robotics facility, so that's going to help him deal with lurkers. And he's even getting out Charge, which can also be nice, but he needs to make sure he gets enough gateway units up to complement the Immortals, to make sure that he gets up enough Zealots warp-ins, because he doesn't have that many gateways still. He's still just sitting on 3 warp gates. So he doesn't have the big burst production that a lot of pro players would like. And guess what? Lurker Den is almost finished up now. Hydros are already starting to come out, and this is a big difference, a stark difference from the last game. It looks like 8 more workers were killed off by those Adepts that were on the north side. But in that last game, we ended up seeing Lurker Den finishing up, but the Hydros weren't done yet, and PandaBearMe was forced to make more Ravagers. He was forced to make more units to deal with the immediate push-in. That's not going to be happening this game. PandaBearMe has free reign to make the Lurkers as soon as that Lurker Den is finished up, and he has the Hydros done as well. So he can hit a bit earlier with them. Immortals are now coming out in pretty high numbers, since we're getting up to number 5 and number 6 with the next round. But PiLiPiLi hasn't been sitting back and doing absolutely nothing, twiddling his thumbs this entire time too. He's been getting up his Templar Archives, adding on all those gateways now to get that burst production eventually. But for now, really just trying to get up as much tech as possible to get that big late game army that he's hoping will just be able to straight up win in a direct engagement versus PandaBearMe. So both these players feeling more confident in it. But very interestingly, PandaBearMe definitely delaying the upgrades by quite a bit in this game. I wonder if that just has to do with the 20 or so workers that were killed off this game. PandaBearMe definitely lost quite a few workers, and even though he's back up to 70 now, that might have cut into his potential to get those upgrades up a little bit earlier. So +1 melee is going to be behind +1 weapons for PiLiPiLi, which is, again, another pretty stark difference from the last game that they played. +2 weapons is on the way, and Infestation Pit also coming up. So, of course, PandaBearMe would love to complement those melee upgrades with those adrenal gland upgrades and pumping out a lot of Zerglings. But here come in the Lurkers. Now these Zerglings at the Zelnaga Watchtower are going to be able to spot out this army that's moving across the map. And I love the creep spread from PandaBearMe. It's going to make it a lot more nerve-wracking for PiLiPiLi to really push too far out onto creep, especially since he has a very scary army in the form of Charge Zealots, Archons, and Immortals. Even has the Templar Archives finished up, so he can maybe just keep around some of those High Templar if he decides to get up Storm, which he doesn't have just yet. But even then, you don't want to get fully surrounded. You don't want your Charge Zealots to just be run past and have your Immortals be under fire from the Zorgans on the backside. It's a very positional based engagement, and being on creep, it does give PandaBearMe a little bit of an edge. PiLiPiLi going to be playing a bit more patiently, maybe waiting for some of the creep to recede. No, he's going in for it. Revelation was thrown down on some of the Lurkers, but although not all of them. And I don't see, okay, there is an Observer in the mix, and the Hydros are not quite able to pick it off just yet. He does go after it. He does manage to kill it. Now the Oracle is going to have enough energy for a Revelation to be thrown down once again. He should be able to tag all of these remaining Lurkers pretty soon. Going to be able to warp in a couple of more Charge Zealots, a couple of more Archons to try and get the damage done, but of course, that does mean PandaBearMe also has an opportunity to get out some more of his units. PiLiPiLi is trying to look for the best angle of engagement, getting himself a nice spread, a nice concave, and PandaBearMe retreating up to the high ground. Oh, that's going to be a hard position to bust into. And yes, the Archons are great, but hey, PiLiPiLi might just say, you know what, forget your army, I might just go up to the other base. No, he decides to go in for it. Revelation was thrown down on almost every single one of the Lurkers. Immortals powering on through, the Archons taking a majority of the damage, but there are 2 or 3 Lurkers, 4 Lurkers that are not detected. And that does force PiLiPiLi back. He's going to lose so many of these Immortals to just those reinforcing Zerglings. Oh man, if he had had the Revelation down on those Lurkers, this would have been a very different engagement. But those 4 Lurkers just doing so much damage. PandaBearMe holding strong. His 4th expansion could be vulnerable if PiLiPiLi gets into a good position over here, is able to just make his way up the ramp and force an unburrow. But I guess he doesn't want to be caught in a weird spot. I can kind of understand that his army is very much reliant on having a nice open area to work with. A couple of those Lurkers are now burrowed on the high ground, so PandaBearMe sort of anticipating exactly what I was talking about, that PiLiPiLi would maybe just try and move straight up the ramp. The Revelation is thrown down on top of the 2 Lurkers over there. So he's going to end up missing out on these 5 lurkers a little bit on the southern side. More lurkers being morphed as well. PiLiPiLi has 3 observers in the army this time. So he's like, oh, you know what? You killed off one of my observers. I'm not going to let it happen to the rest of them. Alright, well, it's a tense standoff right now. PiLiPiLi doesn't have a 4th expansion right now, but he is going to try and go for it. Zergling should be able to deny this. Already has 1 kill. That might have been an earlier probe that tried to take that 4th expansion. A lot more Zerglings coming in, but I think, honestly, 3 Zealots plus, I suppose, 1 or 2 more Warpins should be able to deal with this. No, 3 Zealots is going to be enough, because there are no Carapace upgrades. No, just barely not enough. There's just a few too many Zerglings, it looks like. Did he get adrenal glands? No, it looks like he has hive tech, but he hasn't researched adrenal glands just yet. So that's definitely an upgrade that PandaBearMe is going to want to go for, especially with how many Zerglings he does continue to make, and especially using those for counterattacks like this one. Moving over to the 3rd expansion at the same time, we had a bit of a Zealot counterattack over on the 4th expansion, not super successful, and PandaBearMe also not very fairly successful at defending the attack over into the natural expansion in the 3rd. Zerglings also getting Photon Overcharge out of there, and there should be exactly 1 Photon Overcharge left over, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to take care of these Zerglings. He may have to use another Reinforcing Warpin. There are the Zealots. But he's pulling back his entire army. He's realizing, I really do need to just defend this 4th expansion for now, and he does have to back up. War Prism is still alive, so it may be the only form of aggression that PiLiPiLi continues to put on, but this is the point where I'm surprised. PiLiPiLi normally has a Dark Shrine by the time he hits 3 to 4 bases. And I suppose that he was really trying to end the game on those 3 bases, is only really taking a 4th expansion because he says, well, I wasn't able to really take out the expansion or do a lot of devastating damage over here, so I have to transition. I wouldn't say he's in a terrible spot. He's still got a nice army supply lead, but this does get scarier and scarier as Hive Tech is already finished up. Adrenal glands should be researched eventually at some point, once PandaBearMe realizes he doesn't actually have it. And PiLiPiLi needs to start thinking about that next step transition. We got a lot of Zerglings coming in. Oh, the 4th expansion is going to be unbelievably vulnerable. 24 workers, 31 workers being killed off so far, and there's still more Zerglings running rampant in the main base. They should be cleaned off by a couple of these Zealots, but PiLiPiLi is struggling to deal with this, losing 44 down to just 12 workers. PiLiPiLi is in a totally all-in position. Broodlords are being made though, and Broodlord Lurker is an unbelievably difficult composition to break into. Now the Oracle should be able to throw down Revelation on top of those Lurkers. He's really going to be relying on these charge zealots getting on top of the Lurkers before the first round of Broodlings come in. Once those Broodlings come in, it really messes with the Zealot AI. The Zealots charge into the Broodlings rather than into the Lurkers, and that means that suddenly you're not able to get into a good position. GG gets called. PiLiPiLi doesn't even try the engagement. PandaBearMe ties up the series 1-1. It's best of 5. And as a reminder again, all of the games today should be best of 5s. I think even the even the qualifying matches are best of 5s. So that does mean that we are tied up 1-1. In a sense, I know some people dislike it when you say this, but in a sense, you could say it's now like a best of 3. But of course, that would not be doing justice to the fact that we just saw some games being played. And of course, that does play an impact on the way that players think about how they're going to transition, the way that those previous games went. PiLiPiLi is going to be a little bit more paranoid about those Broodlord transitions a little bit faster, happening a bit faster. King Sejong Station going to be the next map. Definitely a map where if you get up to a scary composition, you can just push across the map, and it's very hard to play that roundabout. You know, I'm moving in from all sorts of different angles, like you'd imagine you can play on a much bigger map. But all right. PandaBearMe, we gotta invite you to the game. There you go. Players are ready, then we'll hop into it. Get the map intro loaded. Alright, both the players are ready, we're hopping into it. King Sejong Station is the map for game number 2. We'll see you guys there. Here we are in game number 3, ladies and gentlemen, on the map King Sejong Station. In the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the red Protoss player from Storm Gaming. Give it up for PiLiPiLi. And his opponent in the top left-hand corner of the map, the yellow Zerg player from Root Gaming. That's PandaBearMe. And I'm really happy that this is already turning out to be a pretty close series, because both of these players are really good up-and-comers that are becoming less and less of up-and-comers. They're becoming stable, quote-unquote, NA household names. Now, granted, NA household names is a relative term, but still, NA scene has been doing better than it's ever done before, or at least better than it's done in the past couple of years. And players have been showing more promise than before. So I'm really, really happy to see that these two players are facing off and having good games today. Now, PiLiPiLi in that last game definitely struggled to push into that lurker defense that PandaBearMe had, but it really came down, I feel like the critical moment that it came down to wasn't the fact that, yeah, the Broodlords came out and everything, but at that point, I feel like PandaBearMe was already in a pretty good spot. To me, it came down to the moment where PiLiPiLi was pushing in, he had all the Immortals still alive, and there was not a lot left, but there were 4 lurkers that were not detected. There was no detection for PiLiPiLi, and if he had been able to throw down a revelation on top of those lurkers, if he had an observer still alive, I think those lurkers die. I think that he maintains and keeps alive about 5 or 6 more of his Immortals, and suddenly those Immortals have a lot more health. When the Zerglings pop out, PiLiPiLi is able to micro them back, move back for a second, warp in another round of Zealots, and I think that he actually pushes up into the natural expansion, potentially wins right there. But he wasn't. PandaBearMe was able to get the good defense up. Now, PiLiPiLi also was able to win that game number 1 thanks to a big push in. And we're starting to see that that is most likely the way that these games are probably going to be going. PiLiPiLi really seems to want to play for that kind of, I wouldn't even call it mid-game, but it's that early late-game composition where he's got up a lot of the Immortals. He's got up maybe some number of gateway units that are either like Charge Zealots, Archons, High Templar, etc. But I'm not really sure if PandaBearMe is going to be able to continue to defend that way if PiLiPiLi just starts trying to hit a little bit earlier on, if he's a bit more careful about the detection, because that was a sort of, I wouldn't call it gimmicky way, but it's an unreliable way to win the game, to just say, I'm going to kill off your detection and then my lurkers will be able to survive. It's something that you can try to do, but similar to saying, I'm going to rely on something like burrowed banelings hitting my opponent's army. I mean, yeah, if you're really good, you're probably going to be able to get it more consistently, but it's still something that you're relying on outdoing your opponent in some regard. And it's a lot harder to rely on something like that for your game plan. But PandaBearMe has just got to find ways to defend against PiLiPiLi. Now, the Stargate opening did come out, and of course, these Zerglings are able to push in at the front. The Stargate, by the way, for those who are wondering why it's coming down at the front, well, you don't really get the wall in time if you want to go for an early Stargate this fast, and also still make sure that the Zerglings just can't run rampant in your natural expansion. So he has to go for it as a part of the wall in on particularly this map. King Sejong Station just has such a wide ramp. And the Phoenixes are going to be able to make their way out, clean up any Overlords that is sitting around. And this does allow PiLiPiLi to also focus on just making Adepts. He's not have to worry about making Stalkers to clean up any of those guys. But already looking to go for a fairly fast third expansion. Probe should get Focus Fire down, and I don't think PiLiPiLi can save it. No, he's not going to be able to save it. One Zergling does survive to tell the tale and laugh at PiLiPiLi's face. But PiLiPiLi maintains that Adept in the wall in, so he should be able to prevent the Zergling from getting any more information out. Twilight Council comes out behind us for PiLiPiLi. No surprise there, considering how many Adepts he's starting to make. But PandaBearMe mixing it up a bit, going for the Baneling Nest. Now, this is the play that I think makes a bit more sense to me. Going for the +1 melee attacks, but getting up a Baneling Nest is a bit more common than what I usually see from PandaBearMe, which is melee attacks, but foregoing and skipping that Baneling Nest. So maybe he's a bit more concerned about, because there's a Phoenix and Adept opening, it's pretty common for Protoss players to follow this up into a big resonating glaives Adept attack, and he wants to have those Banelings out to get the defenses up. Queens are being picked off over here, so that is a bit annoying since these Spore Crawlers are going to be fairly delayed, or at least the Spore Crawler over the third expansion is going to be delayed. He already has one finished up in the natural expansion. I don't think he has one in the main base. But PiLiPiLi going to be able to kill off some more of these Overlords. That's really nice. He's going to be able to supply block PandaBearMe pretty heavily, and that's going to be a really significant supply block. At the same time, oh my god, third expansion got canceled. PandaBearMe able to kill or cancel that third expansion is really, really nice. It's putting both these players into a weird spot where they're both taking a lot of damage right now. PandaBearMe getting supply block right before he wants to go for this really, really massive attack. The Banelings are finished up, and he should be able to bust down both the Gateway and the Cybernetics Core with this many Banelings, but he's going to go after the Adept and just try and make his way into the mineral line, but doesn't end up having any damage really happen. He doesn't even kill off any workers, I don't think. And now PiLiPiLi is able to focus back on those Phoenix and kill off more units as he has the APM to spare for it, killing off 2 more workers. Gonna be able to kill off a few Overlords over here again. Supply blocking PandaBearMe once again. And you can see how much damage this has done. He loses 1 of those Phoenix, not ideal, but still. I think that PiLiPiLi is okay with having a slightly more delayed third expansion considering how much damage he's done and how much PandaBearMe had to invest a lot of, not just his early game units that could have been drones, but he had to invest a lot of gas into all those Banelings that he just made. So he had to get up a much later lair tech. Look at how delayed this lair tech is. I mean, PiLiPiLi has a War Prism, has Resonating Glaives coming out. He's going to be able to try and go up to a third expansion at some point, maybe, if he tries to go for it. Looks like a Gateway does get picked off, but there's a very complete wall in over here of pylons, making sure that PiLiPiLi is not going to be able to die. In fact, he doesn't seem like he wants to go for the third expansion. He's going to be able to allow these Resonating Glaives upgraded Adepts to finish up their Shades. He splits up the Adepts as well to make sure that they don't all just die to the same set of Banelings, but these Zergons are going to be able to get a bigger surround on the Adepts at the same time, though. So there are some benefits, I would say, to PandaBearMe being able to kill off, split up Adepts, but I mean, the Adepts are in fairly high number now. We have more of them shading around, trying to get more damage done. The Zergons are coming out, but are they coming out in high enough numbers? The Phoenixes can also lift up any of the Queens that try and get a little bit too far forward if they try and just get the defense up by themselves. PandaBearMe, you know, for a lot of trouble right now. He's trying to make some more Banelings. Where are the Banelings being made? They're being made over the third, and they're getting canceled. Focus Fire comes out from PiLiPiLi. Really nicely done over there. And he's going to be able to kill off more and more of these workers. I think the spiral way too far out of control at this stage. He's starting to shade a couple of more of these Adepts over the main base, even using those Adepts at the ramp to make sure that they can't just easily make their way down into the natural expansion, using them as a bit of a wall. And I feel like this has got to be it. GG. PiLiPiLi taking game number 3, bringing up the series 2-1 in his favor. Alright, well, congratulations to PiLiPiLi taking another lead once again in the game, but he still has to take one more game to move on to the next round and play off versus the winner of True versus Kelazor, who, by the way, are both playing at Cheeseadelphia right now. They're both physically in Philadelphia at the same LAN event, playing their WCS matches right now, so big shout out to them. But we're going to hop into a short little break, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started into the next game, so we'll see you guys in just a little bit. Here we are in game number 4, ladies and gentlemen. Spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the red Protoss player sitting up 2-1 and representing Psystorm Gaming. It's PiLiPiLi. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the yellow Zerg player who has been able to win the game where he got to the super late game. Can he get there? Give it up for Root Gaming's PandaBearMe. So one other thing that I think is worth noting is the fact that PiLiPiLi has been going for slight deviations in his build orders every one of these games. And it's slight deviations in maybe the composition, where I think game number 1, he was going for a lot more of those Blink Stalkers. He was went for the Blink Stalker Sentry push, and then transitioned out into getting out a lot of the Immortals and adding on the High Templar and Archons and everything. But game number 2 was the game that instead he went for Charge Lot, and then going into the Immortal production, and then getting out the Archons and everything. So he does end up at sort of a similar composition, but replacing the Stalkers with the Charge Zealots. And then the last game, we end up seeing that PiLiPiLi just goes for that massive Adept attack. So I think that PandaBearMe has been the one that has been sitting on a fairly standard, I guess, similar opening for the most part. He did have a slight deviation in that last game going for the Baneling Nest, but I think that was more of a reactionary thing, seeing the Adepts and the Stargate out. It's pretty common to face off versus a large number of Adepts, but he wasn't quite able to get the defense up. But he also wasn't able to make the attack work, and I think that's really what it came down to. Using all of those Banelings and not really being able to bust into your opponent's natural expansion, that was a lot of wasted Banelings, a substantial number. And here we go, we got another Baneling that's coming out very early on from PandaBearMe. Now this game, he did see a Stalker coming out, as well as now the Adept here, so I don't know if he's really seen something that cues him off to say this is going to be a big Adept attack or anything along those lines. There is Resonating Glaze being researched, and there are a couple of gateways going down. I think that PiLiPiLi is going up to just 3 gateways right now. Yeah, he's only sitting on 1. He's getting out his 2nd and 3rd. So nothing super significant just yet or committed from PiLiPiLi, as he is getting up a robotic facility, but that could be a robotic facility for a Warp Prism and going into a big all-in. But I don't know if it's going to get to that stage, because here we go. PandaBearMe is looking to try and make this Baneling bust work again, and I don't know how successful it's going to be. There aren't really any sentries for PiLiPiLi to utilize. He doesn't have his 3rd and 4th gas geysers, but here we go. Banelings come on in. PiLiPiLi is completely unprepared for this right now, and 2 Banelings do manage to survive, but most importantly, the Zerglings coming on in. Mothership Core comes out super late. Oh my god, what a delayed Mothership Core. That could actually be the nail in the coffin over here. Nice focus fire from the Stalker, actually kills off the Baneling, then it uses a Photon Overcharge to kill off the other one, but he's gonna end up losing so many probes. As sick of a defense, and I guess the focus firing from PiLiPiLi as it was over there, I think that PandaBearMe did a great job just going for the 2nd Baneling bust in and making this one work. PiLiPiLi had no idea what to anticipate, and he's gonna pay for it. 13 workers have already gone down. You have to remember that there's more Zerglings streaming across the map. The Cybernetics core is going to end up falling. And I think Resonating Glaze finishes up. So yeah, these Adepts are going to be able to trade a bit better versus these Zerglings. But I mean, at what cost? There's already a 3rd expansion for PandaBearMe. I do feel like, even though he is not significantly further ahead in workers or anything, I think that if he was able to just use these Zerglings to go to the natural and kill it off, he would pretty much guarantee a win. But he's going to come in regardless with the Banelings, trying to go after those probes. And he is trading versus a lot of the pylons. The pylon with Photon Overcharge does get taken out, and there goes down the wall. And now PiLiPiLi forced to fight with probes, and this is never a position you want to be in as a Protoss player. Cybernetics core does get remade, and PiLiPiLi is making this defense look a lot closer than I thought it would be. He's not even mining gas right now because he's just so busy pulling these workers. But there are just continuous streams of Zerglings coming across the map. If PiLiPiLi can maybe get a wall-in going once again, he can maybe make this work. Then Mothership Core is going to once again build up energy for a Photon Overcharge. Couple of Banelings are trying to be made over here, but look at this. 2 of them go down before getting any connections. 1 of them goes off on an Adept, and the Adepts do get taken out. That is unfortunate for PiLiPiLi, getting a bit too far out there. Oh man, if he had been able to spare the resources to build 1 more pylon over here to act as that wall-in, maybe he would have had an easier time dealing with these Zerglings once again. But I guess the Zerglings can always run around behind the mineral line. They still would have to move through these choke points, but well, natural expansion's finally getting focus fire down, and this is what I was talking about. Oh, if these Adepts had been able to create a nice little wall in over there at the ramp, that could have worked out well. PiLiPiLi, he's maybe can make this work. He's only down or up. He's still up 1 worker. And as long as PandaBearMe doesn't look to transition, if he ever ends up losing all of these Zerglings and he never kills the natural expansion, this still could maybe work for PiLiPiLi. Resonating Glaive to depths? There's not going to be any layer tech. There's not going to be a Roach Warren or anything else. Maybe PiLiPiLi can make the defense work. He's gotten up a large number of these Adepts. He's been able to keep some of them alive. He's using the Adepts at the ramp to hold position, make sure these Zerglings don't just run on in. But the Mothership Core doesn't have any pylons so Photon Overcharge, so he ends up losing yet another one of the Adepts. Finally, we start to see semblances of a transition from PandaBearMe, but no, we have more Banelings being made. This is just for Overlord drops. He wants to bypass the Adept wall-in over here and use an Overlord to probably drop into the main base. And I don't really know if PiLiPiLi is going to have much of an answer to that. What a sick game so far. PiLiPiLi is trying to remake the workers, but he's not really sure until just now whether or not PandaBearMe was committing to this. He does try and split up those Adepts. 3 Banelings manage to survive. Pylon does go up. Photon Overcharge is utilized, and he should be able to focus fires down. The Banelings is able to kill them off. He kills off everything, and the Pylon even survives. More Zerglings streaming across the map. Is PiLiPiLi seriously holding this after he had Zerglings running rampant through his mineral line? He looked like he was dead. I think 90% of Protoss players die in that spot, but PiLiPiLi somehow able to hold with just, I gotta say, continuously sick target firing from his Photon Overcharges, from his Adepts, making sure those Banelings never able to get the magnificent hits off that they want. It's not over just yet. More of these Zerglings are going to continue to stream on in. PandaBearMe is just refusing. Oh my god, PiLiPiLi gives up his position at the ramp. He lets the Zerglings into the main base. This is going to cause all sorts of problems once again. And these are now going to be Zerglings that are forcing the probes to all retreat out to the natural expansion. PiLiPiLi still sitting up 27 workers to 21. Photon Overcharge going to be able to clean up more of these Zerglings on the low ground. But those Zerglings on the high ground, it looks like they may be able to be cleaned up by these Adepts. Oh no, PiLiPiLi, I guess he doesn't have any more workers really in the main base. But he needs that main base mining, because that's where all the gas geysers are. Without those gas geysers, he's got 0 capabilities of warping in additional Adepts. More Zerglings being made. PiLiPiLi is trying to rebuild the wall, but he's not going to be given time to. A sentry was made. It's going to be able to throw out some force fields. He might end up losing one of these sentries. Yeah, he does end up losing 2 of them. Already threw out the force fields for them, so he at least got some value out of them, but not a whole lot. The Wallen is being made, but he's still got to deal with these Zerglings over here. God, PandaBearMe just does not know the meaning of transition right now. This is the most savage series. Oh god, the Zerglings in the main base, they depower every single gateway. There are 0 gateways available for PiLiPiLi. He's got to rely on just Photon Overcharge energy and these sentries. Force fields go down. He does whiff one of the force fields. He does manage to get one of them down. Photon Overcharge is utilized. They should be able to clean up everything over here. Sentries may be able to hold position for a little bit, but here we go. A next round of Banelings is coming in. More Zerglings are coming on in. The Pylons are going to be repowered eventually. He's going to be able to get 1 or 2 rounds of Warp-ins to buy more time. Sentry is very, very ballsy, trying to go after the Overlord to try and make sure he shuts down some of that vision. But he needs to have those sentries over here to force field. He needs those sentries to force field. He does finally warp in some units. He gets enough of a... is this enough of a Wallen? 2 Zerglings sneak on past. The Baneling gets focus fired down by the Mothership Core. And there's a hold. He holds. Oh my god, PandaBearMe is making drones! Are you kidding me? He does have immediately those expansions to transition those drones to, so I mean, I don't even know if this is that bad of a position for PandaBearMe. He has +1 melee attacks. He has a transition point in the form of an economy that PiLiPiLi doesn't exactly have going for him right now. He's mining off as that natural, but PiLiPiLi has way more workers. And I mean, yes, he's only 1 worker ahead right now, but he has been mining and has the capabilities to produce more units. And now, if he realizes, hey, the aggression has stopped, he could potentially move across the map. He can try and force more units out of PandaBearMe. And PandaBearMe is going... excuse me, ham on the drones right now. He doesn't have enough Zerglings to deal with this number of Adepts with resonating glaives. And yeah, all he has to do is stick 1 sentry over here, maybe 1 Adept in a sentry or something. Leave those at home to act as that Wallen. Maybe he can even just use one Adept. He doesn't even need the sentries there. He's gonna try and take a 3rd expansion, but I really do feel like the big problem in this situation is that you have to remember, PiLiPiLi is so unbelievably in the dark. He may have some game sense that there was a 3rd expansion taken, but I don't really know. This is such a weird style from PandaBearMe they don't oftentimes see, so PiLiPiLi may not even realize that that 3rd expansion was taken this entire time. And he needs to know whether or not PandaBearMe is getting ready for a secondary all-in, or if this was a transition to a large number of drones behind it. If he was going for a big Roach Ravager follow-up or something, or if he's just trying to get up a really fast layer tech. There's going to be a different response to each one of those, and PiLiPiLi needs to find out what he's up against. He doesn't want to use any of the energy, though. Well, I guess he does use some energy to hallucinate Phoenix. I was going to say, you want to be very careful about that, because you might need that sentry energy. You only have 3. He sees that there's still no lair tech, and that might be the reason why he's backing up right now. He's probably anticipating, wait a second, you still don't have a lair tech? Are you about to all-in me again? Is there something else coming? Are you making more Zerglings? Since he also didn't really see a huge amount of saturation over here at the 3rd, but... looks like he waits for the next round of warp-ins and tries to go for it. There is a Zerglin counterattack, but Mothership Core with the Photon Overcharges on these 2 pylons should be enough to deal with it. Here coming the Adepts, though. Oh, Banelings are there, but Force Seals are prepared. Oh, that's a lot more Banelings being made. And the Montreal is not really going to be able to recall or anything, so PiLiPiLi's got to find his own way out of this. Probably through just a really solid series of engagements. Good Baneling connections on the south side, doing some pretty good hits. And the Banelings do make their way into the mineral line, softening up so many of these Adepts. No more Force Seals left over, but it seems like PiLiPiLi may just barely have enough. Oh my god, 17 workers killed off. Did the Zergons make their way into the natural expansion? Did they kill off all the workers at the third? Was there a bad rally? I don't even know, but that happened during the midst of that engagement, so I can understand if PiLiPiLi didn't have all of his attention focused over there, but that does bring him down to 22 workers. Suddenly, PiLiPiLi not sitting in as good of an economic position as he was before. Now, he did kill off the entire army of PandaBearMe, so PandaBearMe cannot continue to produce more units over here, or more workers. He has to focus on producing more units. He can't afford to tech up right now either, because there's just a lot of these Adepts. Oh, Adepts soaking up the hits from those Banelings very early on. I think that PiLiPiLi got a better trade over there, because now these sentries and the stalkers, as long as they throw down a Force Shield or two to survive, make sure he doesn't lose anything over here, yeah, he's gonna have a better trade. Now the drones being pulled off the line. Mothership Core is getting focused fire down by a Queen, but the Mothership Core is gonna win that fight. Queen having to back up. And now a Warp Prism is in the mix. The micro potential for PiLiPiLi skyrockets up as he can pick up all these units, blink them back. The Queen's trying to focus fire down the Warp Prism, and it looks like PandaBearMe is going to be able to clean up, but he loses 13 workers. We're back where we started. PiLiPiLi, though, has a third expansion this time, but we're back to 25 to 22 workers. I feel like this is the exact spot we were in like 10 minutes ago. Oh my dear lord. Well, PiLiPiLi's not done just yet, because this time, I mean, they might be on even worker counts from where they were earlier on, but this time PiLiPiLi is the one on the aggressive, and I think that's definitely going to favor PiLiPiLi a bit more. GG gets called. PiLiPiLi, with the 8-minute speedling all-in hold, he holds on long enough to go for the counterattack and win. Oh, what a sick game. That was a really, really well done hold. And PiLiPiLi takes the series 3-1, knocking PandaBearMe not out of the tournament, but to the losers bracket, and is going to go on to face off versus the winner of Kelazor versus True. Now, Kelazor did end up losing to True 0-3, so True ended up advancing on 3-0 to the next round. He's going to play versus PiLiPiLi, and I believe in the losers bracket, Kelazor is going to end up playing versus PandaBearMe. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop to a short little break since that was such a ridiculously sick game. And we're going to find the next game to broadcast. So thank you all so much for tuning in for BaseTradeTV coverage of the WCS North American server qualifiers for the final day. We'll be back in just a little bit.